Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at chapter 2, but we're going to be looking kind of backwards in time, going at 1.1 and 1.2, looking at patterns and reasoning. So first things first, we're trying to describe patterns. So you're trying to make a prediction to see what the next set of numbers or next set of pictures are going to look like based on what you've previously seen. So for question number 1 that we have right here, we've got a circle that has two halves, then moves to 3 parts, and then to 4 parts. Pretty easy to assume that the next pie that we're going to see is going to have then 5 sections. Again, we're just trying to make a prediction of what the next one's possibly going to be. For the second one, you go 4, then 8, then 12, then 16, 20, and then 24. So what's got to be the next number? Well, if you take a look at the pattern, it all is plus 4, plus 4, plus 4. So the next number in that pattern after 24 should be 28. Give the next one a try and have that one done for class. So we'll check that guy out then tomorrow. But moving on, now I want you to actually use those drawing arts that you have and try to draw the next figure. To help you out, look at this as an arrow for this first one. First things first is this little paper airplane or triangle is kind of looking to the right here. Next one, shape is going down, and the very next one is going to the left. The only other possibility that we could have here is seeing that we have this particular pattern of right, down, and then left, is that it's moving clockwise. And you should have then a paper airplane or triangle that is looking up. Again, give number 2 a shot. We'll check that out when we get into class then tomorrow. For the next one, we're looking at just the patterns with numbers. So let's take a look here. For number 1, I go from -2 to -5 to -8 to -11, and we want to see, well, what are the next 2 numbers? Well, the pattern that we kind of see going from -2 to -5 to -8 to -11 is that it is adding on -3 to each one of them. -2 plus -3, -5, -5 plus -3, -8, so on and so forth. So we look now at -11. What would be the next one after that? -14, ladies and gentlemen. And if I were to add another -3 onto that -14, then you'd end up with -17. Again, give number 2 a shot on your own. We're going to check that tomorrow, and we're going to look over that in class then. Now, that's 1.1. 1.2, we're going to spice it up a little bit here. For 1.2, we're going to be looking at inductive reasoning. Now, this first word that we have here says it's a conjecture, which is an unproven statement based on a pattern or observation. Think of it this way. An unproven statement would be basically saying that every time Jane goes shopping, she always seems to buy Gucci bags. Sure, she is going to buy a Gucci bag. Now, hold on to that statement in your head for right now as we move on to the next part, which is the inductive reasoning, or the process of looking for patterns and making conjectures. So it's taking what we kind of see and then making an observation and a hypothesis, per so to say, on the particular pattern. So if I'm going back to Jane and her buying that Gucci bag she always wants, we can go and say, well, every time I see Jane go shopping, I notice that she always comes out with a new Gucci bag. So what we're saying here is that every time that Jane goes shopping, she's generally going to be buying a Gucci bag every time because from what we've witnessed, that's what she does. Now, hold on again to that thought as we kind of move on to the next couple parts here. If I want to complete this structure, meaning the sum of any 2 odd numbers is what? Well, we got to take a look at the patterns. What is the patterns that we see all the time? Well, let's take the sum of any 2 numbers. So let's say I take 3 plus 3. What does that equal? Magical number of 6. What about 1 plus 1? Going back to our good old Barney days, watching stuff. What do you get? 2. Then last but not least, here's another odd number, 9 plus 9. What does that equal? Well, that's 18. Well, what do we notice about 6, 2, and 18 here? We notice that every single one of those numbers is an even number. So we can basically state that any sum of any 2 odd numbers makes sure that it has to be then an even number. Let's take a look at product number 2. It says the product, or again, multiplication of any two odd numbers is going to be what? So let's use some numbers there then. Two odd numbers. Let's do that 3 times 3. Well, that's 9. What else do we got? Maybe we can do 5 times 5. That's 25. And let's take a look at, well, 7 times 7. That equals 49. So what do we notice between 9, 25, and 49? Those are all going to be, ooh, can't write, Mr. Kramer. That is going to be odd numbers. Take number 3 and give that a shot on your own. On our example. It's an example that makes the conjecture false. So I kind of want to go back up to Jane and her Gucci bags that she always likes to buy. Well, what it's basically saying is that not every time that there's a pattern is it always going to be, well, true. What happens if Jane goes out and she doesn't buy a Gucci bag and instead she buys maybe a Coach purse or a Coach bag instead that time she comes out? It's something that can be kind of proven false. So to kind of show you some examples of that here, I have the sum of any two numbers is always greater than the larger of the two numbers. Well, here's what we mean. What if I take that number -2 and I add it with -1? What are you going to get? You're going to get -3. Definitely proves that that's not true. Number 2, you got all shapes with 4 sides that are the same length are squares. Well, that's not true. If you take a look, here's a rhombus. All 4 sides are exactly the same by definition, but a square has to have 4 right angles in order to make it a square. So this proves that this particular statement then is false. Well, that's all that we've got here for today. Make sure that you come to class prepared tomorrow with all the problems that I needed you to have done. And if you got any questions, please make sure to ask us tomorrow in class. Have a good one. Bye-bye.